We are live. No, because Brian just got here, so I was
I
like,
did.
I'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Real and Raw with Lynn and Brian. I gotta say, this is our third year going into this, and Brian doesn't let me down. He doesn't disappoint, but he makes me think for a minute. He makes me
Good. We got improv skills for a reason.
yeah. How are you, Brian?
I'm okay running around like a crazy person.
Oh man,
How
I
about
hear
you?
you. Well, doing good, doing good. Getting ready for a little vacation time. So, I think we're gonna have some replays on our shows here for a little bit, and then
Yeah.
we'll have a surprise for people at the end of next month, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, today's topic. I noticed we combined one of the give ups in there, but I think all these kind of go together if you look at it the sequence as far as you give up on the past with excuses.
So why don't you introduce for those that haven't caught the previous two episodes what we're talking about?
Yeah, we were talking about in order to make yourself happy, there's certain things you should consider doing that will make you happy.
Mhm.
And I don't remember the reference link offhand,
Yeah.
but we were there was 15 of them. So we're kind of intertwining and talking about how these can help for you to think and be better and be happy.
Mhm.
So today, and they're all the give up. So give up the past and then give up the excuses and the resistance of change. And I thought the combination was good this time. Brian let me pick this time. And I thought that they went together well because the problem we have with doing experiences or dealing with anything is that we're always going back for previous history,
Right.
you know and so, like, with that said, you're always so in the past and not right now to say, hey, let's see what happens, just like Brian was here like 5 seconds before we started. And so the thing is, though, my past tells me Brian's always going to be here, but regardless, I mean, God forbid something could happen, he cannot show up. It doesn't matter. I have to be present right now.
Right.
We forget so much is out of our control,
Mhm.
and yet we always revert back from our past experiences. And if we can let go of some of our past experiences to say, look, that was then, this is now.
Right.
And so I thought it was a really good place to start with the past part, and
Mhm.
then
Well, you can't.
come with.
Well, there's people that'll either voluntarily or involuntarily live their whole life in the past. It's a
Yeah.
choice. You might not have the tools or the education or the people that you could surround yourself with to get you to that place of freedom and not bringing your past in front of your visual. It's kind of like a filter that you see life through, right? That constantly reappears from like, okay, you either set it behind you, meaning it's in your past, or it's constantly the way that you view life. And it's a choice, in my opinion. But it's unfortunate when people, and don't get me wrong, none of us are perfect. We all have personal demons. It's just a matter of when we bring them to the surface and how we give them less juice or less meaning every time that they show up. And my past still bothers me. It's still some non-completed. Some things that are not completed for me, even though that the circumstance has already been rendered. And breakups, divorces, this, that, or the other thing. Our brains are very creative and very good things, but also though they also create vicious cycles. And what I mean by that is where all you do is rehash in your brain, trying to find different understandings to things when the outcome is the outcome. If it was a breakup, it's already been rendered. You can look at it again and again and again, but it still doesn't change the outcome.
Right.
And that's the but then that's where you also, let's say it's a breakup of some kind, you're not able to separate what happened from what you made it mean, and that's the emotion, right? And for as long as you hold on to that emotion, you're gonna put those two things together, and you're not able to see the distinction. When you start trickling that meaning away from what happened, then you can actually put whatever happened behind you. But as long as it's going to be married with feelings and emotion, you're going to carry it with you every single day.
And what reminds me is, think about when you were younger and there were certain foods you didn't like to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just said, no way. And then you did get older and you open your mind to try it again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for you, but there's been plenty for me that there's foods that I've had that I said, wow, I really didn't like this before. And I do now. Have you tried, or have you?
Yeah, I've had some of those, but then also though it's the you try it once, right? Like let's say it's peppers, for instance, right? But or even like Indian food, okay?
Uh-huh.
A lot of people perceive Indian food with hot. Now, can it be with the curry? Of course it can be, but that doesn't tell the whole story, you know.
Right.
And then also though it's like it's one experience from somebody else, which is hearsay at best, and I don't know what their palate can take.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a very limited experience, but we use that as our understanding of, oh, I can't go to Indian food because it's hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a very the sample size was very small with one person, and there's different levels of curry.
Right.
That's just like saying Latin food, like you don't have to have the ghost pepper when you go get tacos or whatever. You know
So
what I mean?
so again, it takes that part to say, forget the past. And mind you, like you said, whether you have gallbladder issues or this or that, you have to say, okay, these are my limitations. But to be willing to try, and then when people do try things again, they're like, wow, this isn't bad. So I'm just saying that I bring up the food as an example because, or sometimes you're really starved and there's nothing else to eat but trying that, and then you like it. But what I'm saying is, if you could try something you didn't like before and do it again, use that as an example, because I guarantee everybody that's watching has had a food that they didn't like before that they tried again and it was good.
Right. Well,
Whether it's prepared different or whatever.
and I don't know too many people in the world that we're more than likely, unless we're doing fulfilling things every day, and unless we're really living our dreams, we're going to live with regrets. Now,
Yeah.
how much of those regrets can be curbed because you stop living in the past?
Right.
We only have so much time, and we don't know when that little slash next to when we're born is going to be up. We don't know when that day is. Now, do we
Right.
want to live in the past, like, oh, that person's a jerk or whatever? How long have you had that view of that person? 20 years? Wow. Do you really even care? Do they, and when it comes to relationships or whatever, it's like, okay, more than likely, you're the only person that bothers. The other person has absolutely no idea that you're upset at them because you probably never confronted them or never talked about it or had a conversation.
Right.
So let it go. Or if you don't want to have a conversation with them, do it on your terms. Get the coaching, get the training, flush out whatever you need to, so you can put that in you can start living your life with no filters.
And the part you're talking about right now is actually your resistance to change, because obviously if you're going to be holding on to that excuse or that past thought, it's because you're resisting to let go of that old broken record and play a new record, and I mean, there's times you meet somebody and first you're like, I don't like them. I just don't like them.
Right.
And you get to know them and you're like, because I mean, I even find that when I ask couples, so how'd you guys meet? Or, when did this start? I swear, if I took a good, stats on this, I think half the time, and you've heard this, I guarantee half the time, well, when I met him, I couldn't stand him, or we didn't get along, or blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it's just, and I think that's some of the greatest love stories, because it's more than just surface there. It's more substance in that relationship to actually, give in and see and change. I always love seeing that in a relationship.
Well, and when I think of resistant to change, automatically what comes to mind is be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Wherever you're uncomfortable, do a 720 on that. Because if, at least in my opinion, now it's only for me, but if you want to improve your life, you want to go faster, you want to do more, get uncomfortable everywhere you can. Everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm working on that uncomfortable big time. Yeah. So now, you'll see.
And it's like anybody that is resistant or whatever to that, okay, cool. Well, I didn't get where I'm at by just jumping on an improv stage and being like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
It happened over time. but also though it became a part of my being. It
Yeah.
became a part of who I am.
For me, I've had to just say I'm shutting the switch off of the conscientious, embarrassed, or freaking out. I just shut that switch off and say that doesn't define me, and I've got to just egg myself on to just show up.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's probably not the great way, but if anything, I do it and then I laugh at myself and I'm like, shit, I was my own entertainment. Okay, I could laugh at that. It's all
Well, and you
good.
bring up a good point, is because how we perceive ourselves in that moment prior to it, and whatever self-criticism we're going to give or whatever it might be, that only resides in us.
Yeah.
Nobody else is thinking that.
Yeah.
And the only way you know that if they are is if you ask them.
Right.
And if there's somebody you trust to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So much that happens in life is our own self telling us we can or we can't, or here's how we're going to appear or whatever, and it's all made up.
Yeah.
And plus, here's another thing too: are we doing it for us, or are we doing it for other people?
Or right. And the thing is as far as us, it's what we perceive of ourselves, that we just don't give ourselves credit, unless you want a very narcissistic person and think, oh no, man, my poop don't stink, and then that's whatever. But for some of us that are like conscientious, because we can see what other people pick on, and that's just how society can get. But it is empowering to see people that say, I don't give a shit what they think, and they go do their thing. That has inspired me a lot to get out of my comfort zone, and has allowed me to say, these next steps that I'm taking are going to be okay. I did it. I got it over with. And, but you can't expect anybody to accept where you're at if you can't accept it yourself either.
Well, and I think what we're touching on in this kind of goes to the third one, but I want to point it out is that in any given moment, we're either doing things internally or externally. And what I mean by that is, Sober Life Studios. Hello, hey Scott.
Scott.
Hi, hey Scott. Thanks for joining us. Is we're either doing the work on ourselves, or we're justifying it, complaining, whatever it is, or maybe even making excuses about something external. Now, when you make everything that you do about you, and it's not narcissistic or egotistical, you focus on you first, so you can offer your best self first to other people, right?
Right.
If you do the inner work and that's all you do, you might not say anything about the external world. You don't have time for excuses. You don't have time for blame, because you're working on your stuff.
And that's the thing. Working on your stuff is really good and really important and everything. The problem we talk about with narcissistic is when you're sitting there every day and then it's like, Lynn, how you doing? Well, Brian, I'm just working on myself. And when you're just pumping yourself up and talking about that, that's where, certain things, like they say, it's not your words, it's your actions. So your actions have to reflect it. But when you have to actually verbally, edify your own self,
right,
then I think, well, maybe we need to have a show about that.
Well, I think it also goes to show, and I'm sure with our audience, I'm assuming here, but it kind of brings up the whole distinction of busy versus productive.
Yeah.
You can be busy, I don't know, folding your socks because you got a lot of socks. But is that really productive for anything that's really important to you in life?
Yeah.
The productivity is the only thing that matters, because it's things that you really put at stake.
Well, unless you get your socks all over the house and you actually got a box for it, it's productive to do that so you don't step over your socks.
God bless you, buy new socks. Get them on subscription from one of the retailers. You know what I mean?
That's right.
If you got so many socks, we need to do that. God bless you.
Yeah, but again, somebody would say, oh, the past this, or my excuse this, or whatever. It's like, forget all that. Just start. We forget we can start from scratch anytime.
Well, and I love when people have situations like that. I mean, I challenge people, believe it or not, because I don't have the answers to their life, but it's like, if I can disrupt something like that, they might get upset at me, and that's okay. I don't really care. But it's like, let me ask you a question. Do you want to change that right now?
Yeah.
It's an honest question. And the thing about it is that they want advice, but they don't want to take any action. Right. And it's like, okay, getting them to realize the action and then the more upset people get, you keep saying action. You keep saying action. I'm like, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Doing the work internally leads to action. That's how results are created.
Right.
You
Right.
know, now I know that with NLP and all of that, it's like the thinking and the actions, but I think that there has to be a distinction there where it's like, okay, thinking will not create the action. That's the
Right.
hard works. That's the effort. Now,
Right.
the thinking got you the process where
Right.
it's like I do step one, then step two, then step three. But then that's where the hands come in. That's where the combination of the thinking with the hard work comes in.
The recipe.
Correct.
You know, what ingredients do I want, and what ingredients might get me this flavor that I'm looking for?
Correct.
You could talk all about that all you want, but if you don't start cooking it or doing it, you're never going to actually know how it's going to taste or be.
Yeah, and there's the more and more I'm sensitive to it, because it's like we're both action takers. We're always working. We're always helping somebody. We're always doing something to fulfill our lives and make the world better. And exactly what you said earlier. It's like if somebody talks a big game, I might check them out online or whatever to see what the results are in 3 months.
Yeah.
Are they congruent with what they say that they're going to do? Because whether they believe it or not, people are watching.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're taking them at their word, which is their integrity.
Right.
And if they're not in compliance with that, or if they make excuses, that's a trigger right there. That's a red flag. They're making excuses for something they declare themselves out of their own mouth that they don't want to fulfill or commit to.
Yep. Yep. I hear you. And I kind of just laugh because I've been meaning to post all these pictures of me, you know, more body positivity and stuff. But I was looking at my clothes and stuff. I was like, this stuff isn't like it. And to buy things for my body the way it is now, it's like they don't look like me. And I was just talking about this in my class the other night. And the bottom line is like, so I had to go order some stuff from Amazon, and I've been testing and trying different things and different pants and stuff. And I finally think I found some, but it was okay, I want to do this, but I was like, I guess I need clothes now to do it with. So I was like, I was so stuck in my one action that, I got to do this. But I didn't prepare as far as, okay, I need some clothes now that is going to, defy this world. Like, oh, so I finally got the gumption. It was like, shit, now I just need the clothes.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, long story short, there is like, you can't be stuck in one part of it so much is what I'm saying from this. I was so stuck in my comfort zone, and obviously there's some stuff going on that I'll talk more later about, but it's those things that are like, okay, what pieces are together? And if you're stuck with that piece, it's just like a jigsaw puzzle. Right. If you can't find that one straight edge, start doing something else that's easier till you get the other pieces in.
Right.
And so it is funny.
I learned a long time ago is that make wherever, the more places you can make yourself uncomfortable, the better, because that's where your norm needs to be. So wherever you're comfortable, replace it with another uncomfortable place.
Right.
And then another, because then what you won't realize, because it'll become second nature, is because you're just doing it. It becomes second nature, just like tying your shoes or driving a car.
And just
but
like
the more you do that, you find yourself in terms of your mental toughness of what you achieved, but then what you're capable of doing without even realizing it, leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
From where you started.
Like they say, starting your day with doing the hardest task or the thing that you least want to do. Get that crap out of the way. And then the rest of the day is gravy, and so you get to pick and choose in life, everything. But sometimes it's better off not telling everybody what you're planning to do till you get to doing it. But it does invigorate you when you're like, nope, I said I was going to do that. I'm going to do it.
Well, and like, let's look at, before we complete our show here today, is if we look at the three things that we talked about today from that article about being happy, or ways to, right? Give up the past, excuses, and resistance to change. There's an external component, meaning the external world, and then there's an internal component. Now, through each one of those, it's a choice, right? Happiness is a choice through each one of these, right? And so, but that's an internal choice. It's not an external choice. Don't ever look out to the world to be like, okay, how come you're not making me happy? How come this article, how come this, I don't know, this TV show is not making me happy? Well, that's your choice.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to.
Yeah. And you'll fall short in everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like brand new relationships too. It seems like it's all
How'd that go again? How'd that go again?
never mind.
There's a
You know,
funny bit though.
but you know, everything seems roses. And I mean, shoot, in our 3 years, Brian, we've butt heads, we've had communication things. We
Right.
still love each other, but we had to work them out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And talk them out. And that's what I mean. It's like, you know, you've got to have that ability to realize what's going to make you happy is yourself and sharing it with the other person to see where you can make it better. You
Correct.
can't, you know, you can't take, because again, you're stuck in the past that you're allowing it to perpetuate your future and your current situations.
Right. But when we look at each of these, you know, giving up the past, okay, it's a choice, but it's like there's some external circumstance you're not complete with. That's why it keeps coming back. Okay.
Right.
When we look at excuses, those are something that you're declaring out in the world that's getting pushback or not, that people are not agreeing with. And
Right.
the ones that are confronting you on it, and not in a malicious way, but ones that are giving you a little flack instead of just kind of being in your own pity party, they're calling you on it. And then the
Yeah.
last part is resistant to change. Is that okay? The world is not going to give you any agreement about if you're going to change or not. It's just going to happen.
Right.
Computers, live streaming, whatever. The world's gonna do what it's gonna do regardless if you agree.
Yep. It's like the little merry-go-round, or even in the playground, you're pushing it. You
Yep.
either get on that while it's going, or you wait for it to stop. But guess what? In the world, everything's always moving. Nothing stays.
I mean, when we look at, you know, places around the country, it's like, okay, they no longer accept cash. It's either debit or credit. Well, I
Yeah.
want to use cash. No, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. For
You
sure.
know, and that's
Yep.
just one of the many examples. But it's like to get through to everybody that it's like, okay, whenever you're going through about your day, and if you ever have some resistance to being happy, whatever it might be, look at what it is. Because when I look at excuses and blame, especially, it's like I look at it in terms of like internal and external. Okay, and I know we got to go, so I'll make this quick. Is that internally, the way you diffuse blame and excuses, take accountability, take action. Because if you do the work, you don't have the excuse.
Right.
But then if you don't do the work, then you're going to have blame and excuses. Okay, so when there's a lack of action or accountability or responsibility, then you have blame and excuses. And then that's when you're going to find anybody who you can put it on, instead of the three fingers when you're pointing at somebody that are shining back on you.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess we could do a show next time on, you know, as far as resistance of change, because again, the part that we didn't touch this time was resistance of change. Is there, you may have issues with technology and things happening that are happening. And I mean, I have friends that I went to school with 40 years ago that don't even own a cell phone yet,
Sure.
or don't get on the internet, but they have an email, because you can't order or have anything without an email. So, I mean, there's things that force you, whether you want to or not, that you got to accept that they're going to change. So,
And I think that we could do a deep dive into that, because how much of it is what they read, you know, in media,
yeah,
or a story on a news channel versus
yeah,
like, okay, like, oh my God, I can't put my credit card, you know, on
yeah,
one of these online retailers because there might be a security breach.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sure
It
that
can
they're
happen
pretty
in your
damn
local
good at it
bank.
right now.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna snuff out fraud pretty good these days.
Oh, yeah. Well, we need to go.
Yes, we do.
And I don't know. We, depending on, we may be live next week or we may not. I guess we'll talk about that and we'll see next week. So,
Okay. Thanks for
love you
watching,
guys.
everyone. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian. Love you.
I love you too.
Everything.